Thank you, Ms. Lopo, for deepening our skills at A-Push and being there whenever we need you.
You made this our favorite class, and we'll never forget this experience. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, I'm very excited this afternoon to be at Dakota High School. I'm with our high school teacher of the year. She happens to teach social studies. This is Angela LoPiccolo, commonly known as Mrs. Lopo to her students. And she's a very wonderful teacher here at Dakota High School, and we're going to talk and learn a little bit about her approach to teaching U.S. history to 10th graders. So
I actually started my career in Chippewa Valley Schools as a student teacher to Pat O'Connor, who was a very beloved social studies teacher here. And I feel like I had such a great start in my career. I had such a strong mentor. Back then, student teachers were allowed to teach AP classes. And so I did actually teach A-Push as a student teacher. I taught 9th grade global history at the time as well, and I did take over some AP comparative government at that time. My first teaching job was in Fitzgerald Schools. At Fitzgerald High School, I worked there for 2 years. Then I made my way back to Chippewa Valley Schools to Dakota. And so I began actually as a part-time teacher. I filled in the rest of my days subbing. And so I was able to have somewhat of a full day here. And by year 3, I was full-time at Chippewa Valley School. Was Jefferson's presidency really revolutionary?
No.
He undid one Federalist ideal, which was the whiskey tax. And the rest of it kind of stayed status quo. There was nervousness, though, initially, because of the idea that we had a new party coming in.
Didn't Jefferson facilitate the Louisiana Purchase with France?
He will. We'll discuss that. Louisiana Purchase, which made sense in many ways. Let's get rid of France as a ruling power in North America. Okay, that makes sense.
Yes.
And then later, the Embargo Act, when Jefferson says, okay, the push and pull between France is too much. So now what are we going to do? Now we're just going to not trade with anybody, and then eventually we'll trade with the nation that behaves itself. Yeah.
Under what administration was Manifest Destiny? Like, when did it start?
Manifest Destiny, it's a little early at this point. We've discussed this in class. I remember having this conversation too again. We'll do it right now too.
So how many years have you been here?
This is my 16th year at Chippewa Valley Schools and my 18th in teaching completely.
And I know that you've gravitated towards teaching, U.S. history, AP U.S. history. Why is that? What do you like about that?
U.S. history has always been a passion of mine, and so is actually political science and government. I had great social studies teachers. Social studies seemed like a natural fit. By the time I got to the college level, I started off as elementary education, and then I moved into secondary, so I had a wonderful political science professor for my intro freshman course. And I was like, this is what I have to do. I have to be a high school social studies teacher. The content is something I enjoy of U.S. history. I have taught global history and a little bit of world stuff along with that, obviously. And I enjoy that as well. But
I just want to interrupt because so what you just described to me indicates the difference that one teacher can make in your life. Because you talked about this one college teacher you had. So,
yes.
So you were headed down a different path?
I was going to be, when I was in high school, I took business-related classes. My older sister was going a business-type route. And I said, I'll do something like that. Why not? I enjoyed it. I excelled in those courses. But I always loved working with kids. As a young person myself, I made all of my money babysitting. And so I was one of the neighborhood babysitters. And my sister did the same thing. And so I was always with kids, around kids. It just seemed like a natural fit for me. Some of my teachers even mentioned to me that it seemed like that was a path, something they thought I might be good at and enjoy as well.
When you talk about students, I know from talking to students already about you, I know that you really care for your students.
She's an amazing teacher. She's very organized, she's very competent, she clearly knows what she's doing whenever she teaches, and she's just really interesting and very engaging.
Every week is very structured to where when I'm writing an essay about it, I have a very thorough understanding that I've gained throughout the week.
So it's always fun to come to class because she knows the subject she's teaching.
But would you kind of talk about what's important and how you relate to students?
I think one of my most important roles here is not just to teach the curriculum, but to get to know my students, their strengths, their weaknesses, to help them excel academically. I'm a unique situation at Dakota because I teach only advanced placement courses. There's already that high expectation for kids coming into the course, but I enjoy getting to know my students, building relationships with them, knowing important pieces of their life that they choose to share with me, and just being personable with them.
Well, why is that important? Why do you do that?
I think naturally that's just how the person that I am. Anytime I go places, people joke like Angela makes friends wherever she goes because she'll talk with people, and I feel like I can establish common ground with people easily, and I feel like I just have that ability to do so with my students as well.
Do you think that impacts their learning?
Absolutely. I work kids so hard, Mr. Roberts, in my AP classes, and they can attest to that when you talk to them. But they always come back and say, APUSH, AP US History was my favorite class with you. And sometimes I'm just floored by that. These kids work so hard for me week to week, and I'm so impressed by what they do for me in that manner. And so it humbles me and makes me so proud that kids will come back and say those things. I get emails from kids who graduated years ago saying, Ms. LoPiccolo, I want you to know I'm going into social studies and I'm about to be a teacher because of your influence. It's really so powerful for me.
You know, I don't want to burst your bubble or anything, but when I talk to kids in the hallway, they said it really isn't that much work. But I have a feeling it's because of how you teach. They think it's not that much work. Nate, just talk a little bit about how you ended up in AP US History.
Well, last year I took regular world history, and I felt it wasn't a challenge enough, so I enlisted into playing with AP US History. So
why did that transition work well?
she just makes it so simple, and she gave us work over the summer, and it wasn't overbearing. It was a couple chapters to read.
So at this point in time, you think choosing to go AP US History was a good choice?
It was a great choice.
Okay. And what does she do in the classroom that kind of works for you, that makes her an effective teacher?
She'll give us lectures every week. It's the same schedule every single week, no matter what.
I think they get used to it. I think at the beginning of the school year, I always tell the counseling department, like, give me till week 3 with these kids. Let me get to know them.
The ones who think it's too hard right away.
And so I said, once we get to week 3, if they can make it to week 3 and get into week 3, they're going to be okay in my AP US History class, APUSH, because that's when they start to do the chapter work again. The summer assignment's completed. And so I think that they can, it's that piece that they have to feel comfortable with their teacher as well. And I think once I get to start establishing those bonds, the kids say, I can do this, and I know that they would walk away feeling more confident about themselves as a result.
I have a feeling in those first 3 weeks, you show them how much you care. And that probably is what makes the difference.
I think that makes a difference. I think my reputation precedes me, and I think those are normally good things is what I'm told.
Yeah.
And so the kids kind of have expectation of what I will be like as a teacher when they come in, and those pieces as well.
With AP US History or any history course, we'll stick with American history. What are key things that, not necessarily facts, but kind of ideas that you want them to leave with when they leave this class?
I think the content is important as an AP teacher, but it's not the end-all, be-all for me. I want my kids to be good citizens, good people of the social studies world, of the world itself, and walk away with those values. Know how to make an argument when it comes to writing something, how to support things with evidence. And so that as they move to other levels and they write college essays and they move forward, that they have those skills. For me, it's always a balance as an AP teacher between the skills and the content of the course. I think both those are important.
Okay, and then I know also at the school, your life isn't just about AP US History and 10th graders. I know you're really involved in the school in other ways. Talk about some of your involvement with Dakota High School.
Over the years, I've been involved with NHS. I was an NHS advisor for
and
several
NHS
years.
is?
National Honor Society.
Okay.
I was a senior class advisor for several years as well. And my current role is an advisor for the National Social Studies Honor Society called Rho Kappa. And so that's currently the group that I meet with once a month in looking to spread social studies education and diversity in social studies education.
Okay, is that something, is that new?
That is newer, yes. We actually started in November of 2019, so we started just kind of getting going a little bit before the pandemic started, actually.
So you're building that
we're
organization
hoping to,
right now.
And it's nice because almost all of the students are students I've had in my classes, so I get to visit with them and further my connections with them in that capacity.
Angela, I know that right now we have a teaching shortage, and encouraging people to be teachers is really important and necessary for those people who are inclined to want to do that job. But can you talk a little bit about what you might say to someone who was kind of on the fence about whether or not they wanted to be a teacher, but it was someone you saw that had good skills in that area?
Teaching is such a fulfilling profession, I would say. That's the first thing. I would encourage somebody to go into the field. As we're in the field for teaching, we stay for the reason of the students. That's why I come back every single year and I teach the classes that I teach. I think some are may want to move away for financial reasons. There's a lot of other external pressures, things that affect the teaching world, and all of that. And I definitely encourage them to pursue that piece. Kids need good teachers. Everybody remembers their favorite teachers. They remember those that had an impact. the teachers that took time to talk to them about something that was personal for them or help them achieve a learning goal. And I feel like we need good people in this profession to continue that.
When you think about students today in your classroom, what are some simple little tips you would give them to be better students or to be the best student they could be?
I think students have to believe in themselves, and I tell my students you have to have academic confidence. And not all students come to me with that. They come into my AP US History class APUSH, and it's their first AP class if they didn't have the AP World course at the 9th grade level. So some kids feel maybe a little out of their league to start. And sometimes when we get uncomfortable, our notion is I have to drop that class. I just can't do that. I try to find ways with students to establish that with them so that when I meet my 10th graders in APUSH, that they're not saying, oh boy, Miss Lopo's great, but this is just too much for me. I don't think I can do it. I want them to have that faith in themselves. And if you ask my students, they would tell you they have that, especially at this point in the year when they've gone through the whole curriculum. So that's really important.
What's your favorite thing about your students?
I really enjoy their personalities and getting to know them and such. And so some kids have different personalities when I see them in different hours of the day as our schedules change in the semester. And so those are just some of the pieces of it. It's really watching them grow and come into their own academically. I think that's super important as well. I only claim to play a minor role in that. I get up here and I do what's required of me, and I do it to the best of my ability, and I hope that that helps them to achieve what they want out of my classroom.
My final question, I was a first grade teacher, and a fifth grade teacher, but I can think back to first grade, and one of the things I liked about that grade level at that time was that there was a certain point of the year when I saw huge growth in my students, and to me that was very gratifying. Do you have that with high school kids? Do you see like growth all of a sudden at some time during the year, or how does that work?
You do. I think as a sophomore, junior, and senior teacher, it's different at each level. With my APUSH students who are sophomores primarily, I think I see that probably into the second quarter, most of them to the third quarter. They're into the routine with what's expected of them. They're using the teacher feedback to grow from that, and they really come into their own. By this point, we're at mid-April and beyond. They really at their highest point of potential and what they can do as we get them ready for AP exams. I think a big difference I do notice is when I have students at later times in 11th or 12th grade, after I had them as sophomores, and I really see the jump they have between 10th and 11th grade year, that academic maturity, but also that personal growth and maturity as well. I think if I wasn't teaching high school, I still would be teaching in some capacity, I feel like. I did serve a previous position as a social studies curricular leader, and I enjoyed that a lot. But I'd also say I think I'd be great in the teaching world, teaching teachers how to be teachers in the teacher prep programs. And I feel like I'd have an interesting role as my time spent only as a high school teacher. You know what I mean? And so I think that I would do great at that piece of it too, something that I look forward to maybe being a part of. And maybe if I wasn't teaching, I'd be writing my textbook or my own personal book and pursuing more academic pieces on my end, I think. I always love reading and I always love writing. I just don't get to do enough of it during the school year when I'm grading essays and their work all the time.
Would the book you write be about Henry Clay?
It might be. Henry Clay is one of the historical figures that kind of took on a life of its own in my AP class many years ago. And it all started with a group of kids who made me that purple t-shirt that's over my shoulder over there. And ever since then, I've just got more Henry Clay memorabilia in my classroom. And the kids always look forward in APUSH to finding out what the big deal about Henry Clay is and why I'm such a fan. So, but I also wrote a college paper on Henry Clay too. Before I was a really huge fan actually, so at that point.
Very good. Isn't that a rapper?
No? Not that I know of, but again, so you never know out
That's
there.
Hank Clay. That's a country singer.
That might be somebody
Hank
else.
Clay. All right, it was great being in Mrs. Lopo's classroom today here at Dakota High School, and I think after listening to our Teacher of the Year at the secondary level, you'll understand why she's Teacher of the Year.
Miss Lopo is a very good teacher because not only does she care about what you learn content-wise and put all her effort into teaching us, but she also takes time to make it personal and make personal relationships with us, which makes us trust her more with the content and just like DBQs and like what she's teaching us.
Miss Lopo, her first priority isn't just the academic stuff, it's building the relationship with her students, and I really appreciate that because it makes me more comfortable in the class, and the community of the class, she just makes it so amazing and makes me comfortable.
I don't think most of us see Miss Lopo as a teacher, like a class warden. I would say she's more like one of our friends almost. It's kind of weird. It's an odd occurrence. But I think we all enjoy her somehow, somewhere.
She's one of the best teachers I've ever had.
Really?
She has like a very thorough understanding of the content.
Yeah.
And that's definitely reflected in how she teaches it, how it's explained, and how she kind of wants us to draw the correlations from different parts. When we do essay writing and other parts that are going to be tested on later, I find myself getting very good feedback from her, and I'm very appreciative of that.